Good afternoon. I'm Michael Wilkos, Senior Vice President of Community Impact at United Way of Central Ohio. According to the Mid-Ohio Food Collective, 153,000 families in Franklin County visited a food pantry since March of 2021. Of those families, 35% did so for the first time. Today, we will discuss and learn from our local nonprofit partners about the trends, program investment, and hard work that is being done by organizations and United Way to ensure equitable access to nutritious food throughout our community. Today's session will be facilitated by Carmen Barnes, the Deputy Director for Development Support Services, Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services. She will be joined by three panelists: Alexander Clementson, Minister of Healthy Eating and Living Director for Church and Community Development for All People; Martin Butler, Executive Director, Neighborhood Services Incorporated; and Shawana Presley, Director, Prepared Food, Southside Roots Cafe, Market and Kitchen. Carmen, the session is yours.
Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon to you all. I am really excited to be here today having this conversation with you. So we will jump right in, and I'll probably start off with Alex. Alex, can you share a little bit of information about community development for all people and what kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so good afternoon. It's not the morning anymore. Good afternoon, everybody. Alexander Clementson, Healthy Eating and Living Director, and then Minister of Pastoral Social Justice here. And so excited to be with you all. What we do at CD4AP in terms of just food security is we operate two fresh market sites, one on the south side on Parsons Avenue, which is our main site, our original site, and then one we just opened in Linden a few weeks ago. And so at these sites, we are offering free and fresh, thank you. Free and fresh produce to community members from all across Franklin County. And so as long as you are 200% below the poverty line, and you meet that qualification, you're able to come in each day and shop and use our markets to really pick out the food that you are hungry for. Free and fresh produce is something that all people desire, and that's why we offer it to all people who would want to come and partake in our service. And so we have had the Parsons site since 2018 and just opened the other one a few weeks ago. And so that's a little bit about what we do as we build out in our community on the south side and now over in Linden as well.
That's great. All right. And Martin here with the Neighborhood Services organization. Can you tell us a little bit about your food pantry?
Sure.
As well as the neighborhood you serve.
Okay. Well, sure. We were started in 1965 by a dozen churches around Ohio State University. And until the pandemic, we served 7 zip codes once a month. Now we serve everybody in Franklin County twice a month. And prior to the pandemic, we were a choice food pantry, and now we're a drive-up service. So people just drive up and you show your ID and we sign you in. And if you've never been to a food pantry before, you just need a photo ID and some mail that proves that you live there. And we will give enough food for everybody in your family to eat for 5 days. So we do it by family. And that's who we serve.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. Shawana, we're excited to learn about the Southside Roots Cafe and Market. Can you tell us a little bit about your program?
Absolutely. So my name is Shawana Presley. I'm Director of Prepared Foods with Mid-Ohio Food Collective, and Southside Roots is just one pillar of several things that the collective does. The collective provides over 170,000 meals per day across our 20 counties in a variety of different ways, and we partner with about 700 agencies across those 20 counties as well. I oversee the Mid-Ohio Kitchens program and Southside Roots that's located inside the Reeb Avenue Center. Under our pillar, we our goal is to really increase the access of prepared healthy meals to our community. So whether it is children, if it is adults, seniors, folks that are in the homeless community, for that. We just address the needs of hunger from a prepared meal standpoint. The cafe is open Monday through Friday from 11 to 2, and folks can come down to get a free meal every day that we are open. In addition to that, we sponsor and partner with other partners to provide breakfast, lunch, and supper to kids in our neighborhood as well.
Great, thank you for that. And then just for all of the panelists, can you share a little bit about how you've had to adapt your program at the beginning of COVID and kind of where things are now with your program?
We seem to have lost you for a second, Carmen.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right, great. Yeah, I was just asking you to share a little bit about what you've had to adapt because of COVID at the beginning of COVID and how and where things are now with your different programs.
I'm happy to start off the conversation. So with the onset of COVID, of course, under Mental Health Kitchens, our largest, we have a restaurant that was open. Again, inside the Reba Avenue Center, folks were coming to dine. We had to close those doors, but we shifted and started offering grab and go meals. Of course, with us, our larger population of folks that we serve were kids, and daycares closed, schools closed. And so we were trying to figure out how we could best meet the needs of those individuals. A lot of our partners, we were able to transition to grab and go meal sites. I remember one school in particular in the after school at risk program, we were providing about 150 meals a day for just programming that was happening. And so once the school had to close, the teachers got together and they were like, we want to offer this drive-through meal service for families to be able to come and pick up meals. And so we were like, okay. And the first day we delivered 150 meals just because that's what we were doing before. And over 400 families showed up to get food. And we were like, wow, like this need is so great. And so that's where we really tried to establish our focus and establish those type of partnerships with other schools and after school programs that we were already partnering with pre-pandemic, just to make sure that children in our community still had access to food. And then we had this unique opportunity to collaborate with the community shelter board. There was stress on our soup kitchens or community kitchens where they had to close or they didn't have the volunteer to support their organization, and unfortunately had to close their doors. And there were little options for the folks that are in our homeless community to access meals. So we partnered with the community shelter board and were able to provide fresh prepared meals to those individuals. And since the onset of COVID, we've provided over 700,000 prepared meals to our community. So where we kind of initially weren't sure how our program would, how we would meet the needs of our neighbors, we were able to do it just on a vast scale in comparison to what we did pre-COVID. So we learned a lot of things in that time and are going to use a lot of things that we learned to make sure that we can continue to meet that number of folks who are in need daily. And thankfully, we had the help of the National Guard to help us scale up so quickly to meet that need.
That's outstanding. That's great. Alex and Margaret, I'm sure you have similar experiences to share.
Yeah, I know for us, so not only did we open a second market, right, in the midst of the pandemic and reaching out and figuring, kind of just discerning and discovering what community partnerships look like and what folks are really looking for in terms of accessibility. We also adapted our original market to have a drive-through and a walk-up option. So folks can now just drive through, whether it's because of accessibility issues or in terms of time and safety, and then limited number of folks who are now shopping inside. And in our new market, we have a larger space. So we have more folks who can come in a grocery style setting. So folks are carrying their baskets and kind of choosing what you want instead of having pre-made boxes. And then also adapting that to have drive-up service for the parking lot. So if you need to just call while you're in your car, if you're again having accessibility issues or aren't necessarily feeling safe to come inside, we've just tried to adapt to the safety of others in this time and requiring masks and just other steps to make sure that we're staying as safe as possible, because our doors haven't closed this entire time. We've continued to serve more folks and have added more services. So in terms of adaptation, we've just continued to grow in our partnership with the community versus having things like Tishawana said, folks were looking for these resources and we wanted to be there in partnership to provide them. And I'll pass it to you, Mark.
Thank you. Yes, one Friday we were a choice pantry, and the next Monday we were a drive up, and so we shifted very quickly. We have people that, like Alex, we have people that walk up and we give them food and they carry it home. Frequently, families do that. But one of the shifts, one of the fun things that we found was that we could deliver food, and we deliver to our neighbors now. We have a senior food box delivery program, and then we actually have just a regular, if you're a regular person and you need food delivered, we'll deliver. So we don't come inside, it's a contactless delivery. We just drop it off on your front door. But for many of our neighbors, transportation is a huge, huge issue. And getting a 5-day supply of food, which is wonderful to get if you're walking, and I have images in my head. Our average family size is, it's a single mom with 2.43 kids. I don't know how you get 0.43, but at any rate, I have a family, I see them in my head right now, walking up and us pulling out their food and then sorting it and then putting it on their backs and walking home. And that's all the time in all kinds of weather. Anyway, so we have shifted, and we went from, now we only serve the 7 zip codes that we serve monthly for our delivery. So we don't deliver all over Franklin County, I should say that. So we serve primarily in Linden and Southside and right around the University District area and that. But you can check out our website and zip codes because
Martin, how has the community responded to your drop-off program?
They really like it, especially the seniors. The way we found this out is we have a senior food box program, and our neighbors weren't coming because of the pandemic. And what happened is we had a board member start calling people, and they were like, well, we thought you closed like all the other pantries. And I'm like, well, no, we're still open. And they said, well, we're afraid to come out. And so we were like, well, if we drop it off at your house, will you, and of course they're going to be there. And by the way, we consider seniors to be 60 or older. My wife's going to be 60 in February. She's starting to realize it's not that old, but that percentage of people that we term seniors has grown by about 4% in the last 2 or 3 years. So now about 15% of our neighbors are seniors.
Okay.
And so that's a population shift that we've seen grow. But I think it's easier. And being in poverty is not a crime. And you should be able to get food delivered to you. If that eliminates a barrier to your success. And we feel very strongly about that. So, and we're always looking for volunteers. So
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Alex, tell us a little bit about the HEAL program and kind of what some of the barriers and challenges are to healthy eating.
Yeah, so I think as Martin was kind of alluding to, right, access to transportation is one of the big barriers. When you live in places where grocery stores aren't, like you would think Kroger and Giant Eagle aren't readily accessible, it can make it fairly difficult because even if there are some stores in the area, they're not always necessarily places that provide fresh produce. Even if there is some form of produce, it's probably not high quality. And so even as folks may be looking for better quality ingredients, if all you have access to are the places that don't serve the items, they don't really carry the items you're looking for, you're going to have to get what's available. And so that's one of the main barriers in terms. The other one is transportation. And then just another one that we really see is it can be the cost, right? It's like the cost of trying to eat and live in a healthy way. And so what we have done in our markets is really try and provide a grocery shopping experience that reduces the stress and the financial cost of trying to have fresh produce by providing it for free in partnership with Mid-Ohio and allowing folks to use their resources for other essentials, just like housing, transportation, and then looking for some unique partnerships like with CODA. And they have a really cool program right now that they're piloting where you live kind of in the hospital area here on the Southside, bus stop to bus stop, you can get a free ride. And so we are kind of tackling those things because the barriers, there are multitudes, and the actual cycle of poverty can be so difficult, and it costs a lot to be someone who is living in poverty. And so we're trying to partner with our community to eliminate some of those barriers because there are so many of them. And so to answer your question in a long-winded way, there are a lot of barriers. And our biggest emphasis is on the food because we know that that's something we can provide, and getting it should be a lot more accessible. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Good. Shawana or Martin, do you guys want to add anything to what Alex said there in response to that question? No? Okay, great. I have a few more questions, but I do want to remind the audience, we would love to have you to add your questions into the chat. So if you can go ahead and do that, I'll ask one, just keep going, and then we'll see what's happening in the chat. So Shawana, the Southside Roots Market Cafe model, that's a little different. Can you tell us about how that impacts your neighborhood and the staff of the cafe as well?
Absolutely. So just to clarify, we because of our partnership with how the Mid-Ohio markets are kind of popping up around town, one of the things that we had decided to do just before COVID was to close the market that we had inside the cafe. We were offering low cost produce, but it was a smarter partnership to partner with folks like Church for All People and Heart in Columbus State to offer a place where folks can access free meals and fresh produce. So we transitioned away from the market and then providing free meals every day to our community. And I think what the biggest benefit for that is, one, us being housed in Reeve, and we have 13 other nonprofit organizations that provide a host of resources. So food is our common ground. If you know that there is some place that I can go to get a prepared meal, that's going to be the first, right? Because that's your basic need. So you are going to this place to meet your basic need. But then through that, you find out there are other resources here that I can access to help my overall well-being. So I think that's the first benefit. And then there is also this sense of community and family because folks come to the Southside Roots Cafe, they connect with their neighbors, they connect with the folks that are serving them. We make sure that we are providing a dignified experience and everyone feels welcomed to come. And sometimes you come and you're there all day because you are just so comfortable in that space. So we wanted it to feel like a third place, and folks utilize it as that. And then for our staff, it is just helps them keep things in perspective. And then the understanding that they're serving a higher purpose and making sure that our community is healthy. Because if our community isn't healthy, then we can't all be healthy, because I can't be happy and well if my neighbor is in need. And that's how our staff approaches it daily.
Great point. Is there anyone else who'd like to share on that point at all? Okay, Martin, what are some of your ideas or your dreams? How can we really help to eliminate food insecurity in our communities?
I think those dreams are too big. But you know, if everybody thought, well, you know, if my neighbor, and by neighbor, I don't necessarily mean somebody that lives right close to you, but somebody that lives anywhere around Franklin County, anywhere in the United States, we can make it anywhere in the world. If they're not doing well, I'm not doing well, because we're all connected. We're all the same. If we had that mentality, that drive, that effort, that choice, we wouldn't have jobs. It would be beautiful. I would love to be able to tell my wife, I'm sorry, we solved hunger, I have to stay home. She'll probably tell me, you need to go do this. I don't think I'd get to be here, but that would be my big dream. But smaller and more realistically, we can lower the number of barriers that Alex alluded to our neighbors being able to have affordable housing. We do rent and utility assistance, but affordable housing and food and clean and drinking water and safe access to transportation and everything else, if we just chose those things, maybe over a little bit of money. I guess I'm not the right person to talk about this, because I don't understand why we don't do it in the first place. So
Martin, I love
that's why
your passion.
So, but we can't. Here's the flip side: we can do it. We absolutely can do it. That would be my big dream.
That's great. How can the community get involved more? How can we make donations? How can we support the work that you're already doing?
Are you talking to me?
Everyone. For all of the panelists.
I can use sturdy reusable bags for my delivery, and volunteers to deliver food. It doesn't take long. The bags are already packed when you get to the pantry. We already have a map of where you go. Surprisingly enough, we're like UPS. You go in a circle, always to the right, and we make it easy to love your neighbor.
Great.
And really like it if people did that.
Okay.
Yeah. For Martin, volunteering, as Martin alluded to, is a huge. We are grateful that folks are becoming more comfortable with volunteering as we kind of live into this and adapt to this new normal, but we still need lots of helping hands to serve our community, because even though while we are adapting to this new normal, the need extreme, like greater in the wake of COVID, and that hasn't changed, right? There are still, before we may have served 300 and some odd number of families in the pantry, and that was our normal. And now, maybe 600 to 700 families daily is our normal. And that need hasn't gone away. So we could certainly use helping hands. When you donate to the food bank, $1 for every dollar that is donated, we can provide 4.5 meals or $9.50 worth of groceries. So donations and volunteering are the best way for community to get involved, and just advocating for that neighbor in need. And so you may not come and spend a day volunteering at the food bank, but you may pass someone on the street that is in need, and just find it in your heart or within yourself to just help that person.
Great.
To follow up from these phenomenal panelists, I would just say volunteering your time is always big for us. We do have the Point app, which is super helpful because you can go on and just see and schedule like, hey, this day looks good for me, this time works. And we would love for different folks to get involved. Not just donating your time, but your resource. Reusable bags are huge for us. We're trying to be plastic free in our markets and just contribute to a better environment. And then also just financial donations. It really, and for us, our biggest costs are always just the staff to make sure that the markets keep going so folks have access to the food that they're looking for. And so we are looking for all sorts of donations, just physical, energy, time-wise, monetary if you have it. And we would just appreciate anything folks can send our way. And to Shawana's last point, I mean, in less than 2,000 square feet last year, we were able to serve 45,000 plus families and put $3.1 million back to the community of free and fresh produce. And so in terms of your question about what does it look like, it would be phenomenal if folks just already had access to that food. We didn't have to just have a space for it. And so I think they both have talked about how we can make these things work together. And so if you partner with one of them, then you partner with one of us because we're all working toward a common goal.
Great. Thank you all for that. I am going to turn over to the chat real quick and ask some of the questions that I see here, and whoever would like to respond, please do. So Kyle has a question. The question is, once the pandemic ends, do you see more emphasis on food delivery over pickup options for the more vulnerable in the community? And Kyle believes that you could see that being a huge benefit to those who are unable to get to the food pantry. So who would like to respond to that?
We don't intend to stop because it's working for us. And unless it just really dried up, which I can't imagine it doing. I think we're going to continue to do it. And we're working. I will tell you that I'm on the Middle Health Food Bank Agency Council, and I know that they're working on a much larger version of it because we're trying to see what we can do to help everybody as much as possible.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Shawana?
No, I was just, Martin actually already kind of touched on it, just as a collective, I think our food bank is really trying to leverage technology to help us be able to serve our community in smarter, more efficient ways. And that does look like, I think the future of that does look like a lot of delivery of groceries, of meals for our community. So I certainly see that picking up. How? I'm not exactly sure. That is certainly not my area of expertise, but I know that that is the future just in general of groceries. Whether you're in need, you are looking for more convenient ways to access it. We I don't go to the groceries every time I go. I'm ordering it online or even having it delivered. And for our neighbors that are in need, that convenience is also important, right? If I am a single mom and I'm working, maybe multiple jobs and I don't have time to run to the grocery store, I may not even have time, in the evening to cook dinner, that convenience is, significant in that way. And it just frees up time for me I don't have to spend an hour at the grocery store. I can give this time to my kids. I can give this time to my family.
Great. Yeah, another question in the chat. Can children volunteer along with their parents?
For us, we are hoping that folks are 12 and up, just because we have to do things like move pallets or sometimes lift heavier boxes, and we just don't want there to be any issues where someone's just not paying attention and a child may accidentally get hurt. So that's how it works for us.
Great.
And for us, it's 13 and up for the same reasons, just safety and wanting to make sure our kiddos are taken care of.
And we, if you're between 12 and 16, your parent has to stay with you. Yeah, we don't, if you're in high school and you're doing it as a service project or for service hours or something, great. But yeah.
Here's another question for you. So the SNAP allotment increase went into effect on October 1. Do you feel the increase is enough to sufficiently feed families in Franklin County? And also the increase doesn't necessarily address the food deserts that were mentioned. What more needs to be done to make healthy, affordable food readily accessible in the community?
If you all don't mind, I want to jump in first for this one. And just the idea, SNAP allotment is great, right? Folks have more resources to buy more food, but if we have to increase it, then that kind of tells us that it's probably not enough. We see the trends in our market that we get more folks at certain points during the month when their benefits are gone because you want to eat. Right? Like you want to use those benefits and you can't necessarily always use them for the things you want to use them for. And so then they're able to come to our market and get some of the other stuff that they may be looking for when they're shopping. And so to the other half of that question is just continuing to provide options where like produce is fresh, it's free, or it's just generally more accessible. And if there are different models and market styles where there may be smaller stores that are taking a corner store approach, but are just free and fresh produce and some other ideas that folks may be kicking around, and even just us, again, with opening Linden, like just making these resources closer and more accessible to folks. That's at least one step.
Great.
We are only 65,430 meals away from all of last year, and it's October 14th. And last year we distributed 763,308 meals. And that's 11,794 families. SNAP benefits are great and they're wonderful, but you cannot use them to buy menstrual products or soap or toilet paper or shampoo or shaving cream, which, is very important to me. And so that's great. But there are so many other things that you need to buy that you can't use SNAP benefits for, which is why neighbors have to come to the pantry. 54% of my neighbors are women. And like I said, but 15% are 60 or older. Sure, that means that most of them have needs that aren't being addressed by SNAP benefits. And so we're always trying to find the gaps that our neighbors need to survive, and eliminate those barriers. We have not seen a slowdown in the number of people coming. And we have had more new families, and we continue to have more new families coming to visit us on a weekly basis.
Okay. Thank you for that. Shawana, anything you wanted to add? Okay. You all, I just want to say thank you. This has been a very enlightening conversation. It's been great just hearing about what you're doing. Thank you for all the residents during the pandemic and even now as we're where we are right now. Just you're doing amazing work. And as from one Franklin County resident to others, just thank you for everything that you're doing. We really appreciate you. So Michael, I am out of time, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to turn the conversation back over. You're on mute.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay.
Thank you for this very important conversation and for all of the work that you continue to do to serve vulnerable people in Franklin County. As always, I'm humbled by people who work on the front line. Thank you for joining us today for this conversation. As a trusted partner in Central Ohio for nearly 100 years, United Way is committed to working side by side with our community and for our community toward a better tomorrow. United Way has always brought together donors, volunteers, advocates, nonprofits, leaders, and more to take on Central Ohio's toughest challenges. We hope that you will continue to join us for future conversations like this one that can be found on liveunitedcentralohio.org/events, because our community is stronger when we show up united. I want to thank Carmen Barnes, Alexander Clementson, Martin Butler, and Shawana Presley for taking time out of your day and for the work that you do every day. And just want to say thank you. And for everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.